Planning permission on our cheap house is becoming an absolute nightmare. And the irony is, we're not really asking for much. All we are proposing is what the neighbouring properties have done over the previous years with an added bit of class. So I'm not accepting defeat just yet, but whilst I continue to battle it out with the council, we're going to be installing some outdoor sockets which we will desperately need for the big build. And as always guys, if you're enjoying this series, drop us a comment and don't forget to subscribe. Bit of a weird one. I need some power out here to do things. Luckily, I already have some twin and earth from the previous renovation. So I'm going to do that because it makes sense. It just makes absolute sense to do that in a cheaper way. And the other one, never mind the Honda Civic, is going to go on this wall. I've got a socket roughly there on this side of the chimney, or what used to be the chimney, and I've got another one on the other side. So I'm just going to drill straight out the back and put the two sockets in. But the question is, you might be wondering, if it's a £10 socket, does it have an RCD? Well, thankfully, we have a split load board in the house. The downstairs ring main is protected by an RCD, so I'm just going to put normal sockets in. It's a 30 milliamp RCD, absolutely fine. And it's going to cost me about 20-ish quid. So with that said, we'll go to Screwfix, and if you're wondering what's going on with this absolute not a weapon-ish weapon, head over to my other YouTube channel where I am buying and selling cars to trade all the way up to an E46 M3. Anyway, Screwfix it is. Still need to get this sorted. That was from when some person decided to key my car there. I managed to wet sand this one out, managed to wet sand the back one out, got a bit giddy with this one, went through to the primer about 2 or 3 years ago, and I got a quote to spray the door for 600 quid, and I've just left it. Which to me completely defeats the object of being a car guy. Anyway, we just get in the truck and head off to the nearest Screwfix, and hopefully the weather will hold off whilst we do this work. Now I know there's going to be people in the comments saying, well, an extension lead, you can move it around and you can take it to places, blah 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 blah, but 70 quid for a 50-metre extension lead is absolutely madness, given the fact that a drum of 1.5 Arctic Flex cable is roughly around 38 quid. So astronomical markup on that extension lead. 2 outdoor sockets for 20-ish quid. Thankfully I've already got the drill bits and everything. I know everyone doesn't have the tools, but this should hopefully demonstrate how easy it is. And we're still waiting for a decision on the planning, which is rather annoying given the fact that the deadline was the 1st of September and they have had the application since the end of June, and after we submitted the application I had to ring them 2 weeks into it to say it's still not showing on the council website, what is going on? And when that happened, they said, oh sorry, we'll check. And then next minute there's a knock at the door from the neighbours asking about what the plans are, and obviously they have a right to do that because we've got to consult them. But it wasn't nice the fact that the council didn't tell me they were sending the letters out, because my plan was to go round to the neighbours and just tell them what we're doing and just tell them there's absolutely nothing they need to worry about. Once we get it agreed, we're gonna need power outside obviously for cement mixers, pressure washers, all sorts of stuff that we'll need. We may even be putting a hoist on the scaffold just to get the roof tiles up to the roof a little bit easier. So these sockets will come in handy. And here we are. I'd absolutely love to know how much I have spent here over the years. I wouldn't like to know because it's throw you in the absolute messy car and a tube of silicone. So we now need to go back to the house, which we have named. We've called it after many suggestions from people in the comments and family and friends. Everyone at home was just like, why do you want to name your house? Like, why don't you just go with the number? And I said, well, when you see the plans, if they get approved, you'll understand why the house needs a name. Now the name we've gone for doesn't really tie into the house, but it is Duckingham Palace. And the reason we called it that is there is a lifelong family joke of me liking ducks. Now, it isn't true. It was something that was said years ago, and when I was a young kid joking about filling a hot tub up with rubber ducks and jumping in it. Don't know why, but I was a kid. And then it extended into people buying me ducks constantly. So when we asked the family, they said it should be duck related. And then look, here's another one. the dog's toy. Just silly really. So Duckingham Palace. However, when you do type it in on a computer, you'll soon realise that the DU fast becomes DI, spelling something totally inappropriate. So maybe that wasn't the wisest decision, obviously. Anyway, this whole video is about installing some outside sockets, and we've not even started that. So I'll talk you through what is going on. If we come into the temporary living room, you will see a socket behind those flowers and a socket there, and then that is where the old chimney breast was. So we're either going to take the faceplate off that socket there, or this one. We're going to put the socket tester in. We're then going to head through here, in under the stairs, and we're going to turn the socket off in there. And I'm actually gutted because that's a smart meter. Comment if you know why I'm gutted. Turn the sockets off, and then we're going to get the SDS drill. We're going to drill through that way and take it off hammer just before we pop through the brick to stop it blowing. And then we're going to head out here and put an outdoor socket on the wall, basically, because it's a nightmare when wanting to wash the car. So if we drill from the right hand side of the fireplace, it'll come out there, and if we drill from the left, it'll come out here. Put the outdoor socket on, send a bit of twin and air through the wall, connect it into that socket, and then we will turn the power back on and not test it. No, we will test it. Make sure it's all fine, and some people will probably say it should be protected by a spur, but if you read the regs, you can actually spur off a socket so long as it's not more than 5 meters, I believe. Been a long time since I've read them, but either way, it's temporary. Then we need to get a socket on this side of the house. So the issue we're probably going to have with that is, cue the temporary dining table and the Baxi heater, is that the sockets that are currently in, which are those, somebody has absolutely bodged and brought the twin and earth cable above the skirting board, clipped it round and gone into there. But you can see 2 cables where the ring main is. Now the socket, sorry, this is a really bad mess, this room, just because it's where we're storing things. The only socket that is in this room that came with the property as standard is there, which is in the middle of the house. And to get a cable across, it means I've got to lift the floor up. Now that isn't a problem, because obviously the house is still a building site status, but I want to do something easier than that. And that then brings me back into where the electric board is, and there's no light in here, so you're just going to have to use the blurry footage, or as Wadge would say out of Four Lions, blurry face, anti-surveillance. We could potentially go out through the back here. Now, it would mean, the problem is if I just open the consumer unit, there's one spare way in there that looks like it, but when I've had the cover off, there isn't actually a spare way in there. So if there was a spare way, we could probably just put a 16 amp breaker in and send a 2.5 through the wall. That's probably not going to happen. We could be really rough and double up in the breaker, which I know is just going to send the comments wild, so I'm not going to do that. There is a socket there though. Now, if we look on the other side of the wall behind the stairs, we could probably clip a cable around and send it out, which seems like the better option. And given the fact that I have just come up with that option whilst talking to you guys, this really shows the strength in talking about what you're doing and running the job through. So that is what I think we're going to do, because there's no toilet in this. There's no toilet. There's no socket in this toilet. It absolutely stinks in there, by the way, because the floor just embedded with urine over the years. Can't get rid of it. Tried sanding it, bleaching it, everything. Not a problem though, because that wall goes, this toilet goes, and the kitchen moves over here. So anyway, that's the plan. We're going to drill 2 holes. We're going to send a socket through, and we'll end up having a socket either side of the house. This is what we need. Come through here, and we plug in. There we go, it beeps. This, by the way, was for the gas fire, no longer in use. We come through here, we go under the stairs. You can still hear the beep in here. RCD unit, sockets. There we go. Has beep stopped? Come through. Beep has stopped. Now, one thing you should all be aware of, when you just turn the MCB off, which is backed up by an RCD, if you touch a neutral and earth together, even though the socket is dead, it will take the whole RCD out, meaning every circuit backed up by the RCD in a split load board will disengage and turn off. So in this case, it'd be the lights, the cooker, and anything else that is on that circuit. In fact, we will just take a look. So if we do it, it will be the shower, cooker, sockets, and lights, because everything is backed up off this RCD. Now, if I just press the test button, which you should do every 3 months to check, by the way, but nobody does, everything will go off. The breakers won't, they'll remain in the on position. But because these all share the same neutral on the neutral bar, if you touch the neutral and earth, bump, it'll throw the RCD. These two circuits will stay on because they're not RCD protected. One is the bell alarm and one is the freezer socket. Now, that's actually quite bad, because the freezer socket is in the garage and it has the potential to be used outside, so it should be backed up by a 30 milliamp RCD. So I'm in two minds whether to change that just for an RCBO if they'll fit in the room. And that brings me on to explain what is an RCBO and what is an RCD. Now, an RCBO and an RCD have two different capabilities, and I'll be quick because now that socket circuit is off, anything in the fridge will be starting to get warm. An RCBO will do neutral earth fault and overload. An RCD doesn't do overload, it will only do a neutral earth fault. And that basically means if you cut through a cable and you get neutral earth, it will trip. And if you do it for an RCBO, it will also trip. But if you overload the circuit on an RCBO, meaning, for instance, if it's rated at 16 amps, but the circuit decides to pull 20 amps, the RCD will also trip. Now, you might be wondering, well, why will an RCD not do that? And that's because RCDs are meant to be used in conjunction with an MCB. And there's a lot of letters going on here. An MCB stands for micro circuit breaker, and RCD stands for residual current device, and RCBO stands for, use your brain, Thomas, residual circuit breaker with overload. I believe someone's going to correct me, but either way, lots of letters, lots of different things. Now, to confuse you even more, you can get different type RCDs. You can get type A, type B, type C, type D. That comes into inrush and things that are using a lot of load. And one bit of advice I will say to anybody is, if you have a car charger on your house, it needs to be a type A RCD. Now, RCD is a double pole, meaning that the live and neutral goes through the breaker and the earth is separate. An RCBO does the same, whereas an MCB only switches the live, meaning that your neutral is still connected when the breaker is off. And that is why if I touch the neutral and earth together now, because the neutral is still connected, it will detect an imbalance and bump, throw the RCD. Hopefully that makes sense. But as always, if you have any questions, just drop a comment below and I'll come back to you and I'll help you where I can. And my God, the clouds look dark. I think it's going to rain, so we better get a move on. Just open this. I'll just pull the socket front off. Little top tip, if you have a house that's wallpapered or just been freshly painted, get a Stanley knife, score around the edges, and it will stop it pulling the paint and plaster off. In this instance, I don't care, because this wall's going to get smashed to pieces when we do the rewire and do all the new chases, and we're going to have it all replastered. So if it pulls the plaster off, I really don't care right now. Pull it open, and then, my God, that is shit. So the issue we have in here now is that earth isn't sleeved, and we already have something spurred off this socket, because there should only be two cables in here, which is your ring main, because you have a feed in and a feed out, and two cables back at the board, so it creates a big circuit, which is the ring main. Now, there's already a cable spurred off here, so I'm not going to use this socket because that's not right. But whilst I'm here, I am going to put some earth sleeving on that because, for instance, look at how close that bare copper is to this neutral in the back of the switch. And more importantly, if it's back to the live, it will simply go bang, spark and pop. But we can't use that socket. If we crawl across the floor, I should have my my scruffs on for this really, but it doesn't seem too much of a task. We'll check this socket now, and I hope to God that there's nothing spurred off it. Double check this, because this house did have a borrowed neutral in the garage the other day and it nearly exploded in my face, but I won't bore you with that because that is a whole different kettle of fish explaining that one. So fingers crossed, if we open this now I'm hoping there's nothing spurred off this one, because then we can just drill straight out the back and send the socket outside, which to be fair is probably in a better position being here because it's nearer the top of the drive, meaning that if any extension leads are needed. There we go. Oh my god, that explains what that is then. This socket only has one cable coming in, and it is sleeved, which makes me think that this cable goes to that side of the fireplace, meaning that that socket is already a spur off the ring main. If that's the case, and we now was extending this socket more than 5 meters, it should really be protected by a spur, so we'd chase a spur into the wall and connect that up there. I'm not going to do that because they're not going to be used in conjunction with anything, and realistically the only thing that's going to be plugged into that socket outside is a cement mixer or a pressure washer. So we'll use a socket, we'll drill out the back. I've got to first drill out the metal back box, which means I'm going to drill a little 20mm hole in the back with a cutter, and then we'll get the SDS drill and send it through. And when we drill through the wall, if you imagine a straight line, we're going to drill downhill. Not too much, just enough, because if water manages to get in the back of the outdoor socket, it shouldn't if it's installed correctly. It just stops the water running back through the wall and into the cavity. Shouldn't come into the house, but it will drop into the cavity. So we're going to drill down on a hill. Let me know if this is confusing the hell out of you, but it is a really simple task. It might seem simple to me because I've done it multiple times, but let me know if there's anything that I've missed. So we'll get the drill out, and wazam through the wall. Probably blowing the brick out, but we'll go and see. Honestly, I will absolutely laugh my sides now if I have blown the brick out, because I was trying to tell you lot how not to do that, and if I've ended up doing it, I'm just going to look an imbecile, aren't I? So, moment of truth. Have we done it? Oh dear. Everything I said don't do, it's just done. But we'll blame the weak brick. At least it's come from the bottom. Now, I could only find some 4mm in the garage. We've only got about 1 meter of cable. Don't need too much of it. But we will now send this through the wall. So that will go through. Try and keep it straight so you don't hit the other course in the cavity. Send that through. And then what I tend to do is strip the outside, get that connected up, and then you can push all the slack through the wall, and then you know where to make it off into that socket. When we do the renovation on this house, it is getting totally rewired, so these sockets will be going, and outdoor sockets will be getting wired into the ring main on the property that are actually fixed to the walls, and any sockets in the garden will have armoured cables going to them. Hopefully that makes sense. So we'll go on the other side, get this fixed, the BG socket to the wall, and get some silicone in and get it connected up. Turn it back on, put the socket tester in. That's as far as I'm going to go with testing it. I could get the Mega out and start going a bit berserk, but that's not going to be the case. Got to trust your own work, guys. It's my own house. Obviously, if this was a customer, I would test it. Now, I'll be honest, you probably could get away with not having every single drill like I've got here. I've got an impact driver, a combi drill, and an SDS drill. You could probably get away with a combi drill and an SDS drill. I'd like to say you'd get away with just a combi drill, but there's just no way you'd be getting through that brickwork with the combi, because it doesn't have the yugga-dugga action that an SDS drill has. So, first thing we need to do is back plate of this socket is drill 2 holes. I'm not going to bother putting 4 screws in it, it's just totally unnecessary. So if we just get a metal bit and just through there, that's all it needs to be. 1 hole, do the other one, top tip, wiggle the drill around, it makes the holes a little bit bigger. So if you're struggling to get it level, you've got a little bit of adjustment. Now there is pre-drilled holes there, but I didn't want them in corners. I wanted them in the middle to hold it a bit more straight. Going to be using red roll plugs 1.5" screws, 1.5" 10s I use to get a tighter fit, not 8s, and 6mm penny washers. So screw goes through the penny washer, plug goes in the wall, through the socket, tightens it up, plastic expands, socket's fixed to the wall. The next thing we need to drill though is a 20mm hole in the middle. So we come back to the combi, take this out, 20mm bit back in, and this is for the cable to pass through. So we'll just go on there. Bit blunt because I hit the concrete with it. Through there, and done. Now, I'm going to offer this up to the wall, make sure we're covering the blown out brick, stick the level on. Is there any chalk in this? Make sure it's low wall. There'll be some chalk in there at least, and there isn't. Now we take the SDS drill with a 5.5mm bit for red plugs. Push the red plug in. It's not very forgiving on the hands, but just give it a whack impactoroo. You can do this by hand, but I'm lazy. Tighten it up while we're level, and bend the earth cable back on itself like that, lightly squeezing in there. So now I've got the sleeve in, put this on, pull it away, slide it over there, leave a little bit from the end and then fold it over like that, and you know where to cut it, so when you push it back it leaves enough copper exposed. Because it's the most important conductor, it's the one that saves your life. And if you're in the UK, brown is live, blue is neutral, and green and yellow is the earth, or PME, or CPC even, protective. I get it tight with that, and then I get a bigger driver on it. Don't overdo it, just give it a little nip. Some people have been like, why are you not doubling up the earths and going round? It's just absolutely pointless if you get your connections right. Cheap and cheerful silicone, cut the end off. Twist that. I hate these plastic screws to lock it. I just think they go brittle when the socket's been outside for a while. Just got to go back in the living room. Right, so there we go. Now just got one thing left to do, is to put a nice bead across there. Spread it across. The back box to this socket is a little bit loose in the wall, so whilst we're here, if I can, I'm just going to try and get another screw in it. The dog does this. She doesn't like drills. You don't like hammers, do you? And you really don't like chainsaws.
Do you know one thing I figured out she doesn't like? The tin opener.
Oh,
When you use a tin opener.
She's a weird dog. That's border collies for you, I suppose. So red plug in there. We just might have enough to grab this. So this is just because it's a bit loose in the wall, and it's also not been chased in straight. I'm not bothered, like I say, because everything in this house is getting redone. There we go. She also doesn't like the impact driver. Dog. Like I say, there should really be a grommet in that, but I'm not bothered. I haven't got any. It's not staying here forever, and I will sort it in the future. Now, obviously, you don't have to take the board cover off. Just the curiosity got the better of me there, so just going to push it back on, making sure I don't catch the RCD and cause anything to trip. So get that back in position, screw it up, turn the circuitry on. That's in, RCD up, sockets, lights, sockets. There we go. Before we screw it back up, 3 lights beeping away, all working. Cover open, plug in there. There we go. That's not flashing, by the way. It's just the camera can't pick it up. And for the sake of sakes, try both sides. There we go. An outside socket. But there's still one thing we need to do, and that is tidy up. So, Sophie, you can tidy up, please.